Low-key geek.
Hey,
He's a low-key geek. He tries to be out there when he wants to be, but hey, he's a low-key
keep it low key.
geek.
Hey, what is going on, guys and gals? Happy Monday, y'all. Hope all of you had a wonderful weekend. This is Renee, LOWKEY GEEK, back here on a Monday. Decided to start the week off with a brand new episode of the podcast here. If you're not familiar with the LOWKEY GEEK podcast, it's just a podcast for us geeks to talk about the latest in pop culture news, whether it's movies, TV, video games, what have you. I like to put my spin on things. I sometimes review and recap stuff, or let's just talk about what's happening in the world of geekdom. So thank you again for joining and tuning in. As always, the YouTube spiel is you like what you see. Appreciate if you hit a like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. I am trying to grow the channel to 500 subscribers within the next month or two. So any help in doing that would be greatly appreciated. And the channel, you can catch a lot of my other videos that I produce on a weekly basis there. And if you are an audio listener, you can catch me on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever podcasts are found. Make sure to hit that follow and leave a good rating. It would be greatly appreciated there too, as the channel and the communities grow and grow and grow. So thank you for, dealing with the usual spiel there, but yeah, got some interesting stuff to talk about today. Mostly stuff that hit towards the tail end of last week, along with some of the latest episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the new Invincible series that dropped on Amazon Prime on Friday. So as I take a sip of my coffee, so let's start things off with something a little heartwarming, at least something that I found extremely heartwarming. And I don't know if a lot of you have had a chance to see this yet, but Sesame Street, the wonderful workshop there, dropped a really unique video. I caught it on Twitter last week, and it introduces two new black puppets. And I thought it was a wonderful time to drop something like this with a really great message there. Basically, it's a father and son, and the son, they're admiring the leaves changing colors and all that, or the different colors of the leaves. And Elmo comes around and basically, he's asking questions. He's asking questions about, why certain people have different colors of skin. And first it starts off with the son kind of asking questions along the same lines there, but the father there really gives a great explanation and a realistic explanation as to why everyone is unique in their own way, and why everyone, even though we're all humans and all that, we all look different, and we have all our own unique features and skin colors and all that stuff like that. And I just thought it was a wonderful, wonderful message. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, I will leave a link in the description so that you can check it out yourself. But I thought, what a great explanation to give people, especially kids, as to why people look different, and kind of just how we should really accept everyone's unique features and unique our uniqueness as a whole. And it was really, really heartwarming. And I made a joke about it on Twitter, basically saying that it's a much better explanation than my mom ever gave me when I was a kid and asking these questions. I will not divulge what my mom or the way my mom would describe things, but I do have to keep in mind that my mom is from a different era, and the way things are explained in her mind made sense at the time. Let's just say she didn't give me a real scientific explanation, more of a folk tale or folklore as to why people have different skin colors and all that. But and I'm pretty sure a lot of you have experienced the same thing growing up. As kids, we are very inquisitive, and we ask a lot of questions. And definitely, once we become aware of everyone's unique looks and unique skin colors or unique hairstyles or unique ways of the way they live their lives and all that, we will ask questions. Kids ask questions all the time. When I was growing up, I didn't have the internet. I didn't have a chance to do a lot of research and all that. So of course I looked upon my parents, and I looked upon my older relatives or teachers to fill in the gaps and answer these questions that I have. And sometimes I got really great answers, and sometimes I got answers that as a kid I would just accept at the time. But and as you get older, you learn more, and obviously you have your own mind and determine what you want to believe or what not to believe, or just you really look into the real answers and the scientific terms and all that kind of stuff like that. So I think it's a great icebreaker and a great way to kind of introduce kids to learning about everyone's uniquenesses and all that. So yeah, do check it out. I highly recommend. It's like I said, very heartwarming message and heartwarming video. And leave it to the folks over there at the Sesame Workshop to put something like this together, so that hopefully we could be on the right path in teaching our kids the best ways of accepting everyone for who they are, and for their uniquenesses out there. So really, really cool stuff. One of the moving on to something else I wanted to discuss. Last week it was announced that they apparently are working on a Ghost of Tsushima movie. From the news that I read here is that John Wick helmer Chad Stahelski has been set to direct the Ghost of Tsushima, the film adaptation of the celebrated feudal Japan set PlayStation exclusive video game, which has been set up at Sony Pictures and PlayStation Productions. First off, I want to say that Ghost of Tsushima is probably one of my most favorite games that I had a chance to play last year. The way the game was put together, it was just very, very visually, just visually like unbelievable. Just looking at the gameplay, looking at the way the cutscenes were put together, it is like you're watching a movie. And if you were a fan of like the samurai films of the of the past, especially like the Akira Kurosawa movies and all that, this screams Akira Kurosawa. Like the way that those movies were directed, the way those movies were put together, the storylines and all that, very, very gorgeous type of game. The game itself even has a Kurosawa mode, which allows you to play the game in a black and white film to kind of mimic the Kurosawa films of the past. And like the gameplay, the storylines are fantastic. I haven't had a chance to really play through the whole game. I got through probably 1/3 of it. The game is pretty big and it takes quite a while to play through, but it's well worth it. So of course, hearing this story, I was my first reaction was that I was really excited and I was really happy because the game itself is so cinematic that it lends itself to a cinematic feature. Yeah. And I think it's very easy to take the storylines from the game and translate that into movie form. However, the more I thought about it, and I'm a huge fan of the John Wick movies. I think the John Wick movies have been a huge surprise to a lot of us. You know, when the first John Wick came out, not a lot of people knew what that movie was, and especially myself. I was lucky enough to see the movie at a special screening. I was walking into it not never really hearing about the movie. You know, all I knew was that Keanu Reeves was attached to it. So I didn't know anything of what the movie was supposed to be like. And then when I watched it, I was floored by how amazing the movie was, just by because of the action alone. And I feel like it's one of Keanu's most recent, like one of his best in recent years. You know, it's like a movie that's like meant for Keanu. You know, like Keanu, he knows what kind of wheelhouse he falls into. He's great at action, very little dialogue, but he's believable in becoming this crazy assassin for hire hitman, the Baba Yaga, you know, the legendary assassinator that everyone fears and all that, who also has his own flaws, you know, and all. So when it comes to thinking about the action that is probably going to be set in this film, I'm very much excited about that. Now, my hesitation that came after thinking about it was, will they be able to keep that look and that feel of the samurai films of the past? You know, will it have that Kurosawa feel, just like the game itself has? So it made me question that, you know, would this film, would it have been better helmed by an Asian director or a Japanese director? You know, in Japan, there's a lot of great Japanese movie directors who still do period pieces today. And obviously they're more intertwined with the samurai lore, the look and feel of those films of the past, the TV shows and everything like that. You know, there hasn't really been any Hollywood production movies from the samurai era in recent years. I mean, the last thing I could possibly think of that was at least worth noting was probably The Last Samurai, which I thought was a pretty decently done film. But in recent years, you know, I believe Dave Filoni really captured that Kurosawa feel, that Western feel in in season 2 of The Mandalorian. You know, in the episode where you meet Ahsoka for the very first time. That episode alone screamed like Kurosawa samurai kind of flavor, you know, especially with the big showdown towards the end there. So, you know, I was, you know, questioning a lot about how are they going to pull this off? You know, how are they going to pull off the look and the feel? And is it going to be really, you know, will it really give you the same sense of astonishment and that same sense of taking you back to the days of the samurai and, you know, putting you in those Kurosawa movies or those period TV dramas of the old days? Will they be able to hit that? Will they be able to mimic that? You know, time will tell. I mean, we'll see. Again, it's they're early talks and production, you know, prep for all this stuff like that. Maybe he will be able to do it. Maybe he will be able to tap in that sense, that aesthetic feel, you know, the way those type of movies, you know, flowed. The game does a really great job at capturing all of that. You know, surprisingly, I was not expecting it to be like that. You know, visually we could tell, you know, before going into the game that Like the game looks amazing, the graphics are astonishing, the cinematics are it really, it's like you're watching a movie. And then the more you play it, the more you realize, wow, they really were able to capture the flavor and that feeling of watching these old movies and reliving the days of the samurai. And that is pretty much a huge part of the game itself. The action, of course, is phenomenal too, and I'm pretty confident that they're going to be able to match that type of action sense too, given with all the work that was done for the John Wick movies themselves. But I really think in order for this movie to be successful, they really got to nail it with that feel. They really got to nail it with that essence of the Kurosawa movies and all that. Take a shot every time I mention Kurosawa during this segment, because it's worth mentioning that those films of the past that Kurosawa was involved in, they're kind of like the blueprint of a lot of genre action movies that came after. You hear a lot of directors saying that those movies influenced them to direct the type of action and the type of cinematic experiences that they put together for their films. So it's we'll see what will happen, but I would say like that's one of my main concerns. And like I said, initial reactions was like, oh yeah, hell yeah. Like I really, really want to see this happen. This is going to be, epic in its own way, just like the game was. Maybe this is also me just being overly, positive about the possibilities here, because again, it is going to be a movie based off of a video game, and we all know that every time they adapt a game into movies, it never really works out. I was very, very let down by Assassin's Creed, and I think the only movies that really captured that sense of, hey, this was a really good adaptation from a video game series, franchise, or what have you, was the Sonic movie. And again, I was hesitant in even watching that. I didn't want to believe that movie could be any good. And then when I finally watched it, I was like, wow, this movie was really enjoyable. And they were able to capture the essence of Sonic and his personality and all that, and still putting their own twist in it, because it's hard to adapt something that is somewhat of like a platformer type of game. That's one of the reasons why I think the Mario Brothers movie, one, failed miserably when they did that, and two, it's going to be extremely difficult to make a Mario movie moving forward if they're going to be able to do it. This itself is a full-fledged story. We already have the story in a video game, right? So you would think it would be a lot easier to translate that into movie form, but as we've seen in the past, when they've done that, they always try to put their own spin in these type of movies. And I think in this one, you don't really have to. Your script has already been written for you. You just have to be able to adapt it to a 2-hour length form feature film, which I think is doable. Again, I always feel like, after watching The Mandalorian, after watching WandaVision, and now watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I always feel like these type of adaptations are better fit for maybe limited series on a streaming platform, or a multi-season series, because you could really flesh out a lot of the finite details of the storylines, a lot of the character building that's always very important. But we'll see what happens. Those are just my thoughts on it. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it. I think some of the initial reactions I heard from my circle of friends and all that is that they were excited, and they think that this could be a great thing. But again, like I said, the more I thought about it, the more I started growing concerns in how are they going to pull it off and all that. But time will tell. But guys, let's talk about this crazy drop of a trailer that happened on Friday. We were finally given a good look at the Suicide Squad, the movie there from James Gunn. Obviously, we were following how this was coming about. This was when James Gunn kind of left Disney and Marvel. We weren't really sure if he's going to be back to direct another Guardians of the Galaxy and all that stuff like that. So he immediately jumped on this opportunity to direct another sequel to the Suicide Squad. We got the first one there that, had mixed feelings. I think overall it was pretty negative. And then you got the Harley Quinn Suicide Squad sequel that, believe it or not, a lot of people didn't realize that was a sequel to the Suicide Squad, but it kind of was. And, it was not that great. I didn't even bother watching it because of how disappointed I was with the first movie. But when we heard that James Gunn was tied to direct this new movie in the Suicide Squad franchise, I got excited, because if there's anything that James Gunn is good at, is putting together these ensemble movies of misfits. We saw him do it so well with Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think he surprised a lot of us on how well he was able to pull this off, because Guardians of the Galaxy is such at the time, a small offshoot in the Marvel Comics universe. Not a lot of people read the comics. Not a lot of people knew a lot of these characters, unless you're like a hardcore comic book fan. Like I kind of fall in between, in the middle, where I know enough about comics, but I do hear a lot of my friends talk about it. So I knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy was, but I didn't know that much about them. So, when James Gunn was doing these movies, no one knew who these guys were. And after the first movie came out, everyone fell in love with these characters. Everyone fell in love with Guardians of the Galaxy. Some say that it's probably their best and my most favorite Marvel movie in all of the MCU right now. And I don't blame them. Then Guardians 2 came out, and I think there's some mixed feelings about that. Me personally, I love that movie, and I know some people didn't like it as much. But still, he was able to make this cast of misfits work together and introduce new ones and expand on that universe. So again, I was pretty confident that he was going to pull this off. I was really excited to see what he was going to do. And then we started getting the news of all the different type of characters he was going to include in it. And it's like a laundry list of DC's C-level members and C-level characters and all that stuff like that. You have Polka Dot Man, King Shark, all that stuff like that. And everyone's just like, who the fuck are these people? Then we get the trailer finally, and my God, was it amazing. It was, dare I say, legendary. Within the first 5 to 10 seconds of watching this trailer, it screamed James Gunn. The soundtrack kicks in. You got Steely Dan playing in the background. The music itself already made you feel like you're watching a James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy film, but now in the DC universe. You have Idris Elba, you have John Cena, you have Margot, Robbie returning again as Harley Quinn, and now you're putting together these new group of misfits that looks like, again, 20 deep, and I don't know how they're going to pull all this off, but the chemistry that we can see in this trailer already, it looks like it's going to be entertaining. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and it looks like it's going to be batshit crazy. It really is. And of course, the one character that blew everyone away was King Shark. If you watch like the animated shows and the animated movies, you saw King Shark in action before in the DC universe, but this is the first exposure for a lot of people of King Shark, and to then find out that it's being voiced by Sylvester Stallone, I think that is brilliant. Really, really brilliant. You got this, it's basically, he's a walking land shark that doesn't give two shits about anything. He'll eat anything. He'll rip people in half. He'll do what you tell him to do. He'll do it his own way, right? And then you have John Cena cracking his jokes about bag of dicks and how, if he was going to do it for liberty, he'll eat all the bags of dicks in the world. That line made me laugh out loud for a while. I mean, that was just so funny. Um, Needless, I think it's safe to say that this trailer blew a lot of our minds, and I think we're now eagerly anticipating for this movie to drop. This is probably one of the only DC movies that I'm like, I can't wait to see. Like, I need to see this now, and especially to think about it being a Suicide Squad movie. I mean, I didn't think I would be excited to see a Suicide Squad movie after the last two that we got, but I'm pretty sure it looks like he's gonna nail this one, and it's nice to see that he's working with a lot of the same people he's worked with before. Michael Rooker's in it. Like I said, Sly Stallone, for those of you who saw Guardians 2, Sly had his own cameo in that movie as well. Of course, Sean, his brother, is going to be in this movie as well, so that's going to be interesting to see what he's going to have his brother do. But it looks like it's going to be a blast. But I think also one of the big things that was teased that I kind of was taken aback from was, it looks like we're going to get Starro in this movie. For those of you who don't know who Starro is, Starro was one of the first major bads of the Justice League in the comic books, like going way back, way back to like the Golden Age. Basically, he's this giant starfish kaiju, right? And he has the ability to kind of spawn off these little, mini versions of himself that attaches to people's heads and faces and basically mind controls them. If you played HeroClix like I have, the little, figurine role-playing game there, Starro was this big deal when they finally released that figure, being able to play with against him, and him mind controlling people and members of your party and all that stuff like that. So this is a very massive foe, but again, never really thought we were going to see Starro in a feature film in the DC universe. But again, James Gunn, leave it to James Gunn to take something that's so obscure and bring it into the forefront and make it work. And I think seeing that again gets me so excited, because what he's going to be able to do for not only this group of mismatched misfits, but then he's bringing on a villain that is so obscure and no one really knows about except for you diehard comic book fans, and he's going to try to make this work in this universe. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I am so excited. I am so down. My ticket has been bought, so to speak. I am so excited to see what he's going to do here. And where he's going to go from there. I think it's going to be one of those situations where if he nails it, if he, smashes it out of the park, obviously people are going to want to see more from him on that. And I don't know if that's going to be possible. He is gearing up for Guardians 3. And I'm sure he has a lot of other stuff in his plate there. Will he be able to move back and forth between Marvel, Disney, and DC, Warner Brothers? I don't know, unless they could kind of come to some sort of deal there. But it'll be really interesting to see how this is going to play out. I'm excited. And I can't wait to see what kind of shenanigans this movie is going to bring forward. So, really, and the trailer was pretty long, especially for an initial trailer. I believe it was clocking in just over 2 minutes. But even seeing this much of the movie so far, I still think there's enough mystery in there because it didn't really give away a lot. Yeah, you get to see all right, they're banding this group together to kind of accomplish another task, another impossible task, a task that, no other groups would want to handle. And then obviously it looks like it's going to be something where if they don't do it, they're all going to die, just like how it was before. So really excited to see how this movie is gonna play out. So very exciting stuff there. Again, if you guys caught the trailer, and I'm sure a lot of you have, what are your thoughts? What are some of the Easter eggs that you've caught? What are your thoughts on Polka Dot Man, King Shark? We see Captain Boomerang returning there. You got Jai Courtney back and all that. Will there be any other surprise cameos? I mean, is Starro going to be the main villain? Or is that just like a distraction where it could be a secondary villain to something that's even more? So who knows? James Gunn is very good at surprising us, and I think it's going to be a blast, and I really can't wait to see how this movie is going to play out. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'm curious to see what you guys think. So sticking to comic books and comic universes and what have you there, Marvel made some noise this past week. It started off in the beginning of the week with it looks like we got another shift of release dates for some of the MCU films, and one of note here is Black Widow. Now, we all know, those of us who've been following the news and all that, Black Widow was supposed to come out at the end of last year. It was supposed to lead in and kind of start off phase 4 of the Marvel universe, the MCU universe, I should say. After Black Widow, then we were supposed to get Falcon and Winter Soldier. Then we were supposed to get, I believe, Eternals, and then WandaVision, and then so on and so forth, or what have you. It's kind of hard to keep track because a lot of these shifts have been done for the last year now, mostly due to the pandemic and all that. This shift that's happening now, I do fully believe is also because of the pandemic, but it's because I believe a lot of studios are getting a little bit more confident that folks are going to be able to go back to the movie theaters towards the second half of this year. More vaccines are being, made available to people. Movie theaters are slowly starting to open in major areas like New York, LA, what have you. So second half of the year, I do feel like you're going to be able to see more butts in seats when it comes to movie theaters, right? So a lot of these shifts, and it's not just Marvel who made some shifts in their release dates. Some other studios did the same way, did the same thing. So now we're getting Black Widow. It's gonna be moved from May. It was supposed to be released May 1st, and now it's gonna be released on July 9th of this year. So, and on top of that, they finally caved in, and instead of sticking to their guns about it's gonna be released in movie theaters only, now it looks like they're going to allow the movie to be released on Disney Plus, but at the premiere access level for an additional fee of probably $30, just like what they did with Mulan, the live action Mulan, and what they did recently with Raya and the Last Dragon, which I've heard has been very successful for them, because Raya, I heard, is a very well done movie, great movie. I haven't had a chance to see it yet because $30 is a very steep price point for me at this time. And even though Mulan was received poorly, it sounded like it did really well for Mulan, whether or not you want to believe it or not. So a couple of things that is very interesting here. So Black Widow is getting pushed back again, meaning after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, originally it was supposed to lead into the Black Widow movie. Now it looks like because of this shift, we're actually going to get Loki, the Loki TV series, before Black Widow, because Loki is coming out in June. So I don't know what that's entails as far as the phase 4 storyline, because getting WandaVision as early as we did really put our mindset in the whole mysticism, magic, multiverse mindset, right? Like, we know that WandaVision is going to tie into Doctor Strange 2. Wanda will appear with Doctor Strange and all that. So we got a lot of dimensional stuff, the multi-dimension, the time rifts and everything like that. We were all exposed to that. And I think a lot of us are really, really bought in to see like how this is going to all play out. Now we're watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is very grounded. If you're a fan of the Captain America movies, this is very much in line with that type of storytelling. And this, I guess, version of the universe, where a lot of it is dealing more with reality or what is possible, and a lot of things in this series, and I'll go more into it when I talk about the latest episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's very close to home in a lot of the subject matter there. So however this series is going to end up, we're going to go into Loki. That's going to again bring us back to time travel, the multiverse, mysticism, all that stuff like that. And then from there, we're going to jump back again into a more grounded form of the universe in the Black Widow movie. So I'm very, very curious how these series of events are going to really gel and tie together, especially with the audience. Like the majority of the audience that are watching these are not huge comic book fans like I am, or like a lot of you guys are, and they haven't really been following a lot of these characters before the MCU was formed, right? So WandaVision, I thought it was appealing to a lot of people because of the sitcom eras. People were really drawn to that, and the subject matter of dealing with grief and depression and how that could affect your well-being and how you affect others and all that stuff like that. Those people who are not tied or not really invested in the MCU, who watched WandaVision for the first time, they found themselves getting interested in these characters, doing their research and all that stuff like that. Now with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like I said, a lot of the subject matter is very close to home. So it's very easy for those who are not so tied in the MCU to like fall into this series and enjoy watching it. And of course, I'm sure they're going to do their own research and what have you and everything like that. Loki is going to be a different story. The Loki is gonna test the audience's fortitude in how much they can take in going back to mysticism, going back to like magic and time travel, multi-dimensional, all that stuff like that. Just like how I truly believe that Doctor Strange 2 is going to be testing the audiences and how much they can understand and take a lot of this stuff. And I'm not trying to downplay the audience and all that. It's just, a lot of us, it's so easy for us to think about what we think about things or what our group of people will think about. And a lot of times we tend to forget the general population and general audience that watches these movies are not like us. They don't think like us. They're not so invested in the things that we are invested in. They're not well versed and exposed to a lot of these storylines, these characters, and these type of universes and fantasies and all that stuff like that. So it's very easy to turn the general audience off and to lose their attention if it's something so far-fetched. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people didn't like the original Doctor Strange movie. I loved it. I ate that stuff up left and right because I thought it was brilliant. And I was waiting for a movie like that. So it's just very interesting to, just to see how the audience is going to take to all of this, jumping from here to here to here to here. And if there's going to be that steady flow of connecting tissue between these series, right? It's very easy to say that, Falcon and the Winter Soldier could easily tie into the Black Widow, vice versa, right? WandaVision, there might be some potential ties in with Loki, depending on what he finds himself doing. But, will the audience be able to be patient enough or not? So it is very interesting to see. It's very interesting to see how the Black Widow movie is going to end. What are the final consequences after the Black Widow movie concludes there? Because, we're hearing reports that Scarlett Johansson is not going to be returning to the Marvel Universe anymore. We may not see her portray Black Widow any further. Florence Pugh, who's in this Black Widow movie, it's been long rumored that she's going to take on the mantle of the Black Widow. Are they teasing us for something else? Are they tricking us in believing one thing more than the other? I don't know. It's hard to say. So, you know, or I think a lot of people are even asking after watching WandaVision, now watching Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is the Black Widow movie even necessary? You know, the Black Widow movie could have been just like an easy gateway into Phase 4, you know, especially after seeing what happened in Avengers Endgame with the character, and kind of like a nice little um farewell to the Black Widow character, and possibly the handing the torch over to a new version of the Black Widow. Who knows, right? But since there's been a lot of restructuring and changing and all that stuff like that, are people going to even care anymore for the Black Widow movie? I've been hearing a lot of people say they don't. They could, you know, with all the delays and the pushbacks and all that, I've been hearing a lot of people say that they could care less to watch this Black Widow movie. Give me more like, you know, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Give me more of things like WandaVision, and all that. So it'll be really interesting to see how it's all gonna play out. But yeah, but at least now more of us are gonna be able to finally watch this movie when it finally comes out on July 9th. You know, because now we don't have to be so concerned that it's tied to movie theater releases only. We could, you know, watch it, you know, in the comfort of our own homes, albeit we got to shell out a huge amount of money for it. $30 is nothing to, you know, sneeze at. But if you're a big family and you're looking for watching these type of movies together, then you could do that. If you got a roommate or two and you're big fans of the MCU, you could easily like watch these things together. What I'm thinking of doing, you know, it is summer, drive-ins are open again. Probably head out to another drive-in and watch this movie there. You know, I enjoy doing stuff like that. So, but at least now we have options, you know, and now there's no more playing, you know, tug of war there of, you know, are people going to be able to watch this in the theater or not? Give us the option to do both, watch it in the theater or watch it at home. So it's nice to see that at least we have those options there. So really good stuff. I'm happy about that. And then again, in the last piece of major news before I get into the review segment here, and it, you know, we're sticking to Marvel. So it looks like Marvel, you know, decided to change distribution houses. So huge news that got released last week was Marvel has come to an agreement and a partnership with Penguin Random House for distribution of their comics and graphic novels and what have you, moving forward starting on October 1st. So what this means in the industry, in the comic book industry. So Diamond distributors have been in the game for a very long time. Some would say that they've been a monopoly. They have been the exclusive distributor for DC, Marvel, and all these other publishers. If you own a comic book shop, if you are a Barnes and Noble or what have you, you had to deal with Diamond to get access to these releases and what have you. Last year, DC made big news by saying, nope, we're leaving Diamond and we're moving on to another distributor, because frankly, Diamond is not flexible. They cost a lot of money, and we need to do what we can to cut costs because the pandemic has really hurt us, right? So that happened. Marvel has been kind of teasing in dealing with another distributor for the last couple of years, I believe. In an earlier episode of my podcast, I talked about this distribution partner that they were working with in some regions that happened to be tied into a major comics retailer here in the New York City area, which I found very fascinating. But you could still do stuff with Diamond for them. But now they kind of just said, nope, we are now teaming up with Penguin Random House. And for those of you who read books and all that, Penguin has been around for a long time, decades, and they really have a strong foothold in distribution of, you know, books and publications and what have you. So they're making this switch now to partner up with them. However, they are saying that you as a retailer will still have the option to get their books and everything through Diamond. However, it sounds like it's going to benefit the retailer more because there will no longer be additional costs for shipping or freight charges, as they've been saying. So just to give more insight, basically what it says here is that, the reason for the change given by Marvel sources, and I'm reading this off of bleedingcool.com. Marvel believes that this will allow for growth in the market, provide more efficiency and more reliable resources, as Penguin Random House are one of the largest and most experienced book publisher and distributors in the world, and Marvel believes that PRH can provide Marvel and retailers far more than they get now, but providing the opportunity for comic stores to still order from Diamond will allow for that shift to smooth things out and be a gradual change and adaptation and all that stuff like that. And the one thing of note, like I mentioned, freight, Penguin Random House prides itself as a free freight distributor, unlike Diamond. So all shipping charges will be absorbed in the orderable price of the comics. No additional shipping fees will be charged by Penguin. This is where I think is going to be a game changer for a lot of these retailers, and which could be a huge blow to Diamond once again. I'm sure they're already reeling from the big cut in DC from last year. Now Marvel is striking this blow here, and even though they will still have the option as a retailer to order through Diamond, Diamond is now becoming a warehouse distributor for Random, which is major change. This means Diamond will not really be allowed to charge extra shipping fees and all that stuff like that to cover their costs. Penguin absorbs all of these costs themselves. So it behooves the retailer to go to Penguin directly to just order these books normally, right? But if they stick to Diamond, they too will have additional savings for shipping and all that, because Diamond is no longer they won't have the ability to really charge extra or benefit from the charging of extra and all that, because now in essence they are the warehouse distributor of Penguin for Marvel. So very, very interesting news here. I think this is going to be a huge game changer in the comic book industry. And we will more than likely see how this is going to play out and the benefits of all of this moving into 2022. And I think for Marvel, again, it does allow them to grow. It does allow them to get more exposure, more books in hands of readers and all that, because Penguin will be able to distribute to not only the mom and pops, but your Barnes and Nobles, your Books A Million, all these other book retailers you have all around the world, because they have hands in all of these things. They have access to all of these lines. And I think they'll be able to do it in a speedier fashion. I remember, I used to always buy graphic novels from like Barnes and Noble, but I had to wait. There was always some sort of a delay for those type of retailers to get these graphic novels on their shelves. But if I went to my local comic book store, it will be there, day and date, just when it was supposed to release. But sometimes like these book retailers, they have like rewards programs that you want to take advantage of, and you can't if you decide to go to your comic book shop, if you could find one nearby, and get it from there. So I think this is going to benefit Marvel for sure. And I think in the long run, this is really going to benefit a lot of the retailers, because retailers have been complaining about Diamond for a very long time. The lack of flexibility when it comes to working with them, the huge amount of fees that they have to pay, not only shipping but additional stuff as well. I did some research about this last year when I heard about the news from DC. So I do think this is going to be an interesting shift in the market there. Some people were kind of worried that this might be the death of the comic book shops, but I don't think so. I think if anything, it kind of gives breathing room for comic book shops because, again, they still have the option to work with Diamond. But if they do decide to work directly with Penguin, they're going to save a lot of money when it comes to shipping costs. And I think that's going to be amazing for them because, running a comic book shop these days is not easy with, rent. And, there are not a lot of people reading comics these days, unfortunately. I don't think comic book stores will disappear altogether. I think every year there's a lot of comic book stores that do unfortunately close down because of the shift in market and the shift in audiences and all that stuff like that. But there will always be mom and pop comic book shops as long as they know how to adapt. And having discussions with my friends about comic book shops in recent months, I've always said those who could survive are those who learn how to offer variety. Who knows how to diversify their inventory. So it's not just comic books. You have to be able to offer gaming and, action figures and, paraphernalia and, stationary goods, manga, anime stuff. I know one shop here on the East Coast, they deal with like records and all these other things, sports cards, trading cards. You have to be able to diversify your inventory so that you'll always get people coming to your shop for one thing or multiple things, right? You got to be like the Swiss Army knife retailer, be able to provide many different outlets for your customers, because there are a lot of crosses. There are a lot of people who blend into other genres of collecting or hobbies, model kits, D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, role playing, all that kind of stuff like that. You'll always find someone who's into one thing but is also interested in the other. So if you could provide the one-stop shop for all of these things, then you're pretty solid in surviving the next couple of years until the next shift comes where you have to adapt to something else or, restructure your inventory or what have you. But knowing now that you could possibly potentially save more money when it comes to your inventory for Marvel Comics, I think this is going to be a great deal for a lot of these retailers. So again, let me know what you think about this news. I found this fascinating because, again, I've been a comic book collector since I was a kid. I was always fascinated in the comic book industry, not just because of the stories and the characters, but the business side of things too, especially when it comes to the retail shops, mom and pops and all that. I had dreams of opening up a comic book shop way back in the day. So it's very interesting news for me, and I'm very, very interested to see how it's going to shift the market and how it's going to affect retailers and consumers and what have you. So yeah, big news there. So that's pretty much the majority of the news I wanted to talk about. Again, guys, I'm going to head into the review portion of the podcast. So for those of you who know me, I do give spoilers in a lot of my reviews. So if you haven't watched the latest episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and you're not fully caught up in the Invincible cartoon show series there on Amazon, pause, bookmark, or save this to your watch later. Check out those episodes and then come back and you could watch the video from this point on. So, and again, like, subscribe, comment, all the YouTube stuff. So let's talk Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So episode 2 dropped on Friday, and I'm really liking this show. I wasn't sure how I was gonna take to it, but I think I like this show because it is so grounded, and it is very, very, it touches on a lot of subject matter that is very close to what we're seeing in today's headlines and all that. You know, the episode starts off now giving us a little bit more of an insight of John Walker, who is now pegged to be the new Captain America. Kind of gives us a little insight about his personality, how he feels, and all that. You know, Wyatt Russell, the son of Kurt Russell, I think is doing a really good job at portraying this guy who feels like he's done everything and deserves this chance and wants to prove to everyone that he deserves this chance. But yet he is still kind of nervous because I think a lot of expectations are that he's, you know, he's trying to replace Steve. But he wants to be his own version of Captain America and all that. And now dealing with the spotlight and dealing with all the PR machines and the politics. It's not like this is a person who is eventually not interested in the politics and the image and all that. He just wants to get down and dirty action. It sounds like he just wants to be in the thick of it, which we all know Steve was not. Steve was able to do that balance of being kind of like the Boy Scout and I'm going to tour the country and the world and promote freedom and, you know, the goodness of everything and still get down and dirty when I have to, right? So we got that interesting insight. And then obviously we're seeing how all of this is affecting Sam there, you know, the Falcon himself. But now he's off to Europe to track down the Flag Smashers there, and we finally get the buddy cop team up of Bucky and Falcon, and their chemistry it's amazing. It's I love their back and forth. I love the humor that they have. You know, we saw a glimpse of this in Civil War, you know, in the movies before, and it's definitely carrying on over into this new series, and I think they're doing a really great job at working together. And then we get to see them finally fighting together, and then we get to see them actually confront John Walker and his partner, who has probably the worst hero name ever. And it it kind of loses me at the moment. Let me see here, because I remember when he said it, I didn't want to believe it that that's what I heard, but Battlestar. What kind of freaking name is Battlestar? You know, it sounds like an homage to like old science. It's like Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, it's like an homage to like the science fiction serials of the past. Battlestar, and I remember, you know, there is a scene in the show where, you know, you got John Walker talking to Sam and Bucky, and you know they're wondering, you know, this Lamar guy, like, seriously, what's your deal? What's your name? And when he mentions that he's Battlestar, Bucky was like, all right, I'm done. I'm out of here. Bye. It's like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Battlestar? You know, but you see John Walker really trying to, you know, get the assistance or at least be able to work with Falcon and Bucky. But I think deep down inside, he doesn't want to. I feel like this is a mandate possibly from the government that he's being asked to, right? Because, you know, they obviously know a lot, you know, they are with the Avengers and what have you. And it wouldn't be in his best interest to kind of keep them two in his back pocket, so to speak, right? You know, so unfortunately, you know, Bucky and Sam, they weren't able to get ahead of the Flag Smashers there, and they kind of, you know, got their butts whooped and what have you. They confront John Walker there, and, you know, Bucky's not happy. Bucky's like, this is a disgrace to Steve. This is a disgrace to the Shield. He now telling Falcon we should go ahead and steal the Shield back or what have you, which led into Bucky telling Sam something. It's like, I got to show you something, because what we come to learn is that these flag smashers are all super soldiers. They were all injected with the same serum that Steve got injected with, that Bucky got injected with. So they're super strong. They got heightened reflexes or what have you. So you got like 8 of them now. So how could this happen? How could we find out where they're getting this stuff from? So Bucky takes Sam to Baltimore, Maryland, where he introduces him to this guy that Bucky fought in the war back in the 50s and all that. And it turns out that this is a super soldier that has been in existence since back then that nobody knew about. And not only that, but it is a black super soldier. So there's so much conflict going on here. And you could see the reaction of this soldier, how there's so much disdain towards Bucky. He doesn't even want to be compared to him. He doesn't even want to be, he feels like Bucky got away clean. He talks about when he came back from the war after all of this stuff, after already being experimented on, after trying to take down Bucky and what have you. He comes back, he was put in jail, he was put through tons of experiments, and they were doing a lot of all of these, blood samples. And the guy went through a lot of hell, the minute he came back. And he's gotten no recognition for anything. He's gotten no help or assistance from anything. And he just doesn't even want to talk about it. And of course, this throws Sam for a loop, because like, how could this be a secret? How could no one know about this? How could Steve not even know about this? Bucky says he didn't want to tell Steve. He kept this away from Steve because he's like, this dude's been through enough and I just don't want him to go through any more. And then these cops come and they think Sam is causing trouble. Again, it brings it back to all the current stuff that we're dealing with today when it comes to race and the treatment of our veterans. And it's something that I never thought Marvel and Disney would, kind of put there. I wasn't expecting them to actually go there. I don't know how farther they're going to go with these subject matters, but the fact that we're getting these hints of it, the reason why Sam didn't want to take on this Shield, because he's feeling he's doing the right thing, because deep down inside, I think he feels that America is not ready for a black Captain America, or the government will allow this to happen. And then look what happened. They threw it on to another soldier who, unfortunately, I hate to say it, is a white dude, who looks like your everyday American chiseled chin, blonde hair, blue-eyed dude. And then to find out they had this other super soldier back in the day who happens to be a black guy, kind of like, the way they treated the Tuskegee Airmen back in the day and all that, with all these experimentations and what have you. And then no recognition, no assistance after the war was all done, or their time and services have all been completed. So and then now the confrontation on the street, when the cops come, they think it's Sam who's causing problem. They don't even recognize him for being the Falcon. They just see black dude, white guy arguing in the street. They go to Bucky and they're like, is this guy bothering you? It's crazy stuff, but it felt so real. And I love the way they portrayed it. I love the way they handled it. And it turns out that, at the end of the day, they were there to arrest Bucky because he missed his mandated psychiatrist meeting, and they had to bring him in. So really interesting stuff there. Fast forward, they're spending time with the psychiatrist. She's trying to make sure that they're fit to move on. Bucky, before that, gets bailed out of jail. And who happened to do it? It was John Walker. He decided to use his clout to not only get Bucky out, but to get Bucky released from this psychiatric hold he has on him, because he's an asset that's very valuable to us. So you have this really interesting confrontation with the psychiatrist. These guys just don't like each other. Sam and Bucky, they have something against each other, and a lot of squabbling back and forth. And at the end of the day, you see that Bucky is really disappointed in Sam because Steve relied a lot on Sam, had a lot of faith in Sam to take over the mantle, and Sam didn't do it. And Bucky feels that this is a strike on him, because if Steve believes so much in Sam, but it's not true, or Sam is not to be relied on, that means Steve's faith in Bucky is false as well. And Bucky has this huge chip on his shoulders already because of everything that he's gone through, and then now this, because he Steve means so much to him. And then Sam, like I said, Sam is doing things because he feels he's doing the right thing that neither Bucky or Steve will ever understand. And I do feel that plays a lot into the whole race thing, and how ready is the world to accept something like that. But at the end of the session there, they agreed, look, we got bigger things to take care of. Squash all this stuff now. We'll handle business, and once this business is handled, we'll go our separate ways and never talk to each other again. Fine. They agreed. They get out there, and then now they have one last confrontation with John Walker and Battlestar, Mr. Galactica. And, again, they're just saying, look, you guys know stuff. I'm working with the government, what have you. It'll be better for us to all team up and work together, So they're trying to exchange some information back and forth and what have you, but then Sam and Bucky, they're just like, look, you are the government. So you have a lot of like procedures and all this, kind of things that you have to go through. We don't. We're free agents. We could do whatever we want without being tied down. So it doesn't make sense for us to work together. We'll do what we got to do. You guys do what you got to do. And then this is where we get some sort of machismo moment from John, where it's like, all right, have it your way, but just don't cross my path. Don't get in my way. And he puffs his chin up and, kind of does like one of those, like, back off, stay off my turf. And I was just like, yo, the balls on this dude. That's where I get the sense like, this guy doesn't really give two shits about all of these guys. It's his time. This is my turn. This is my game. Give me the ball. I'm the quarterback. I'm Brady. I'm running this shit, because he's got a lot to prove, and he's the man now, right? So this is the start of all that. And we got a good glimpse on both sides, right? So there's going to be a lot of conflict with this stuff. And, I think at the end of the day, John Walker may not have the best interest of America as a whole or the world as a whole. His interest is in himself and how he handles things and how people are going to look at him and all that. So that's going to be really interesting. So, end of the episode there, Falcon and Bucky, they decide, look, we got to go find out the sources of all this stuff, where their serum is getting distributed from. And the only chance we're going to be able to do this is that we got to talk to the dude that's, mostly connected to all of this. And that's Zemo. And episode ends with, we get a glimpse of Zemo himself, Daniel Bruhl, in jail. And episode ends. So, we're left with that little bit of cliffhanger there. And again, this episode is brilliantly put together. We're 2 episodes in, and it's painting this picture of a lot of different grounded conflict Again, the subject matters that they're touching, the way veterans are being handled, the way people perceive other types of people, race, all that kind of stuff. It's such an amazing series so far, and how they're able to portray this storyline. I'm very curious as to how this is going to be moving forward, and what else is going to get revealed moving forward in the next 4 episodes, I believe, because it's only 6. Um, but I'm digging it. I'm digging it big time. I don't know how you guys feel. Again, leave your comments and thoughts in the comments section. I want to see what you guys feel and think about the episode and the series so far. But it's a great series. I like what they're doing here. And of course, it's a good mix of seriousness, action, and the comedy, because of the chemistry between Bucky and Falcon. There, it's your 48 hours of the Marvel universe. It's your Beverly Hills Cop. It's your Lethal Weapon. It's all of these buddy cop things that you're getting here, that makes it so intriguing, and this is also why I feel like this series is going to be able to grab the attention of the general audience. This is something that they're going to be able to really enjoy. Yeah, they may not really understand who Zemo is. I feel like that's going to be like a big question mark, right? So hopefully in the next episode, they will do a way to kind of recap things and not have the audience rely on doing their back research or going back and watching the past movies, like, Civil War and what have you, or Winter Soldier. So, it's going to be interesting to see how they carry things forward, and what they're going to be able to give the audience, so that they can fully understand who Zemo is and what he's capable of, and how things are going to be moving forward. I'm very, very curious to see how John Walker is going to play into all of this moving forward, and what other conflicts him and Battlestar, Mr. Galactica, is going to be able to get themselves into, and how it's going to affect Falcon and Bucky with what they got to do. Because remember, Bucky's still trying to make amends here. He's still trying to get over his PTSD of everything that he's done. And Sam in a way is doing that too, but he's dealing more with the embarrassment and the guilt of not taking on the mantle of Captain America. Will we see, War Machine, Don Cheadle, come back, because they had that interesting conversation in episode 1 about not taking on the mantle of Captain America and what have you. So really, really good stuff there. I'm enjoying it so far. Curious to hear what you guys are thinking about it, but really amazing stuff there. So, all right. Lastly, in our review segment, let's talk Invincible, guys. So, Invincible. Not a lot of people know what Invincible is, but again, you comic book guys and gals will know. This is Robert Kirkman, the guy who did Walking Dead. This was his superhero story that he did for Image Comics. Huge praises in the comic book world. Everyone loved the series, thought it was a great storyline and what have you. Full disclosure, I never got a chance to read it myself. I do have like a volume 1 omnibus that I've been dying to read. It's just, life always gets in the way. So when I saw the previews of this animated series that they're coming out with, and knowing some, bits and pieces of the lore and the storyline from Friends, I'm very curious about it. I was very intrigued. And they got an all-star cast when it comes to the voices as well. I mean, you got Steven Yeun, who is the main character of Invincible there. You got, Sandra Oh playing his mom. And then you got Jay Jonah himself. What's his face? The State Farm guy. Why? I don't understand. I think, it sucks to get old, guys, because your brain acts so differently. Well, There are some days you can recall things, and then there are some days you can't. But yes, J.K. Simmons is the voice of Omni-Man, who is the father of Invincible. But throughout the series, you have a lot of these other voices. You have Zazie Beetz in there. You have Seth Rogen. You have Mark Hamill does voices in this series, and all that. So you have Walton Goggins, Jason Mantzoukas. You have such a huge breadth of celebrity voices lending their voices to the cast of this series. So it's gearing it, leading up into this. It was gearing up to be a very interesting series that obviously I was extremely interested in. So the first 3 episodes were released on Amazon Prime on Friday, and I watched 2 of them on Friday, and the last one I finally finished and watched yesterday. So initial reaction. Each episode is like roughly an hour long, 46 minutes, what have you. So hour in TV time, because you usually have to count commercial breaks and what have you. So I like that. I like that we're getting a lot of content here. Starts off really slow. To be completely honest with you, I was bored halfway through episode 1. The animation itself is decent. I do feel it's just under the quality of animation that we've gotten through the DC animated movies. It's just under that. The voice acting is very stiff. And what I mean by that is that it unfortunately, it puts me in the studio and I feel like they're reading off a script and there's not a lot of emotion or emoting. So I was very disappointed in that because, like I said, you have some great voice actors here. One great example is J.K. Simmons. J.K. Simmons is at his best when he's being a little bit over the top. We all loved him as J. Jonah, right? We all, love his work when he pops up in these random movies being the silly dude, right? Even in the State Farm ads or what have you, he's a very unique type of character, and it comes out in his voice. Here in this series, he's very one level, and I feel like that's kind of a shame. It's kind of like a waste of a talent like that. But I feel like they're reading their lines and then they stop at the period and then move on to the next thing, So I was a little bit disappointed by that. And it drags. It's I feel like the overall series is going to be a long game. It's a long burn, to get to the meat and potatoes here. And so far, every episode has been like that. And I'll tell you why. Basically, the last 15 minutes of every episode, that's when something major happens. Smacks you right in the face and throws you for a loop. And you're like, holy shit, what the fuck just happened? It happened in episode 1, where all throughout the episode, you're getting used to this Justice League type of team that they have in their universe. Every hero you're starting to, towards the end of the episode, get a little bit of their bio, so to speak. They do their own little roll call thing where they're being summoned to something. And then you get to see a day in the life of each of these individual heroes, right? So now you're starting to get a little bit character building. And what happens? One by one, they're getting picked off and demolished in the most violent way possible. All throughout the episode, the action has been very minimal and very PG to a certain extent. Then hard R, out of nowhere, I was smacked in the face and I woke up because, like I said, I was like so bored I was almost passing out. Then I woke the fuck up because I was like, holy shit, this dude's head just blew off. And who's doing it? Omni-Man. the one guy who was supposed to be like the Superman-like character of the show, who was, portrayed as a good guy. Later on, we found that he wasn't even an official member of this team, but they worked alongside each other. He's picking them off one by one. And I didn't know what to think. I didn't know it was going to go there. Again, I never read the comics, right? So first time for me, I was like, whoa. Then we go into episode 2. And again, huge drag. Oh, what's happening? Omni-Man was passed out after all that's happened because he got his ass kicked too during that whole battle. So he has to go to the hospital. Invincible's learning how to use his powers or what have you. He finds another team, a team of teens, younger heroes, and he starts, somewhat working alongside with them. You're starting to see like his little teen troubles where he's still trying to learn how to fit in, and then he's starting to get crushes on this one person, and then he has a crush on this other person that's part of the teen superhero group here. It goes by the name of Adam Eve. Invincible is now, they're facing this alien invasion, they come in, they're trying to wreak havoc, and something happens, where they have to retreat. We find out that these aliens have a faster or slower timeline in their dimension. So when they come here, their life, expectancy changes and they get old really quick. So all of a sudden, these aliens are dying really fast. The one leader or major alien realizes this, goes back to his world. They develop a technology that now prevents them from doing that. But then something happens again where they have to retreat. So Invincible is now learning to work with other people, this new teen group, and fight alongside them. Omni-Man is still in a coma, but then during one of these fights, he comes across, this old lady who gets really badly mangled, and he feels so guilty. He takes her to the hospital and what have you. Omni-Man is now awake, and all that. And during this whole time, they're still trying to investigate what happened in that fight. I think one of the most unique things is that they have this Hellboy-like character who is like an investigator who is trying to investigate things to find out the truth, because I believe every time he solves something good, it gives him more of a chance to go back to hell or something along those lines. But I like the little references and to other comic properties there. And then again, like I said, the episodes drag, and then wham! Omni-Man gets out of a coma. He's feeling better. He knows that there's this alien invasion happening. He finds his way through the portal to the alien world. And what does he do? He freaking demolishes the entire race of aliens and planet. He kills everyone and destroys everything, all their technology and everything like that. Threatens them to open up the portal so that he could return. And right before he returns, he smashes the last remaining people there. He comes back all, aged, because like I said, they're in their planet, on their universe, you age slower. So he's been there for God knows how long in that time. But in the main reality, it's only been maybe a day or two. So he has like a full on beard and everything like that. And, he just pretty much came back, after wiping out an entire race all by himself and all this. So we're getting a sense that Omni-Man has this weird bloodlust, this weird, again, I don't know if him destroying the team that he worked with or worked alongside with, if that was all his doing, or someone convinced him to do that, or he was being programmed, or what have you. Um, but it was very brutal, right? So again, episode 2, we get hit with this major thing that happens at the end that becomes ultra violent and everything. Now moving into episode 3. And another thing that I do also find a little annoying about this is that they try to work in the title Invincible in very interesting ways. So what they do is that the moment that they mention Invincible in the first 5 minutes, that's when they cut to the title card. It's very an abrupt cut. I think it doesn't fit. I see what they're trying to do. It's unique, but it just doesn't really fit, right? So we get into episode 3, and we start off with the morning of the death of this supergroup. Omni-Man gives his big speech, and then we get into the real funeral, because they said that they don't want to have the real funeral to the public, because they want to keep the burials secret to prevent people from looting the bodies or what have you and everything. So you have Invincible trying to deal with this. His dad is still trying to be the one to kind of teach Invincible the ways of being a superhero. That was stuff that they did in episode 2 when he got out of his coma or what have you. But you have Invincible, who's really trying to understand where he belongs, but he's really digging this new teen group that he's with. However, the robot of the teen group is now being asked to put together a new super team. So he's holding trials and all that. And I found this particular segment to be very interesting, where it's like you have kind of like the X-Men Danger Room scenario. I mean, not so much where you're having like holograms of like landscapes or what have you pulled up, but it's just like a fighting arena where they could test your strength. And you're seeing all these different types of heroes that live in this universe, audition, so to speak. And, during this time, also you have Invincible still trying to deal with his teen angst and his teen stuff. He's talking to Zazie Beetz and like, I'd love for you to come over and, we could do a study date and what have you. Then Adam Eve catches her boyfriend that's part of the teen group cheating on her with another member of the teen group who has the ability to multiply herself into multiple clones and all that. While they're still trying to form this new super group and everything. So you have a lot of these like teen drama moments happening throughout the episode. Omni-Man catches him once, saying, "Oh, you're just coming from this major thing, huh? And now you're trying to catch up with a girl that you're supposed to be on a date with." Well, good. You have to learn how to balance those two things. But always the number one thing is saving the world, doing your duty. And it sounds like life comes second or what have you. And again, there's something off about Omni-Man here. There's something weird that where does his real priorities lie? And how far is he willing to go to do what he feels is the greater good, right? So they finally come to the conclusion of this trial that this is going to be the new supergroup, and the robot there, the leader, he's trying to lead everybody here. And you have the members of the group that don't necessarily get along or agree. And one of the members used to be a member of the first major group, but apparently he lost all his powers. He doesn't believe that a robot should be the leader, and feels like, we should trust a real person and not someone who is a bunch of code and what have you. So we're off to a really bad start with this new group. Invincible decided that he's not going to join the team, even though he was asked, because his dad, Omni-Man, said, "You need to train with me. It's best that you do that." And his mom is like, "And plus, I don't want you missing any more school." All right. So I think this is Omni-Man's way of keeping Invincible away from those people, because I think at the end, he wants to team up with Invincible to take over sole ownership of the superhero moniker. I wouldn't be surprised if Omni-Man's major goal is to get rid of all the superheroes in the world so that it's only him and Invincible left. I'm just speculating, but just the way I look at him, I feel like that's something that could be a potential. So, other things happen in this episode. It's really more about Adam Eve dealing with her, breakup and all that, and Invincible dealing with now he's finally hooking up with Zazie Beetz there, the girl from school. And then the superhero group, right? And again, it's one of those episodes that kind of drag. And then again, last 10 minutes, boom, we get something interesting, like a weird twist. So we see this jail cell of like all of these baddies, right? And the two baddies that we saw in the first episode, somehow one of them gets loose. We see someone behind the curtain, punching the code to allow the jail cell to be a little bit more easily accessible to the bad guy. He beats the crap out of the guard, uses his hand to open up the door. He frees his clone brother out, and they make a run for it. And every little bit of moments when they're trying to escape, whoever's behind the curtain is allowing for things to happen to make it easier for themselves. They finally make it out into the real world, and they get forced to face this weird gun. And the one brother is like, you saw this coming. Takes his brother, uses him as a shield against his gun, destroys the gun, and his brother is been like cut to pieces and all that. And basically homeboy is like, I should be sad, but I could always make another one. See ya. And he goes off into the city or what have you. Cut back to the band behind the curtain. It turns out it's the robot. It is the robot that's been charged with forming the new supergroup, and then cuts right there. So huge twist. Oh, what a twist. So what's going on here? What's really happening, right? You got Omni-Man, who is a bloodthirsty madman, possibly, doesn't really care about other people or what have you. Sounds like he's going to do whatever it takes to be for the better good for himself and his family. You have Invincible, who's still learning the ropes of being a superhero or an upcoming superhero, while still dealing with all his teen angst and teen dramas and being a teen, love triangles and all that. You have the new supergroup, who don't get along and already have conflict within the group because this guy cheated on her with this other girl and yada, yada, yada. One guy doesn't believe this robot should be the leader and what have you. The robot doing something bad behind the scenes for some reason. We don't know why yet. Letting people go. People meaning bad guys go for some reason. All really interesting stuff. What's going to happen next? I couldn't even tell you. I don't know it, but I will say, despite my feelings, my own personal feelings of how every episode tends to drag, there is always that payoff at the end. I feel like that's a ploy to get you to keep watching, but I am intrigued. I am intrigued to continue. It's not one of my most recent favorite things. It's not what I expected it to be when I first heard about it and when I first saw the trailers of it. So I can't honestly say that I am super excited to keep watching. However, I am excited to keep watching just because I am intrigued and because I'm interested to see where this is going to go. It's funny that it is from Kirkman. Is it Kirkland or Kirkman? Kirkland is that brand that you get from Costco, right? Or Walmart. It's Kirkman. So what I was going to say is that it's funny that it's Kirkman, because the same feeling I have for this is the same feeling I had for seasons of Walking Dead. I was disappointed with The Walking Dead for many seasons, but I kept watching because I was so invested in it. And I wanted to see where it was going to go. Now, I'm not saying I'm fully invested in this series yet, but I am interested to see where it's going to go. So let's see where it's going to go, right? Again, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about the series so far. If you've read the comics and now you've seen the first 3 episodes, what are your thoughts of how they're going with this series? Is it exactly how it was in the comic books? Is it, has it detracted already from the storyline? Or are they doing things a lot differently? Love to hear your thoughts and comments on this series so far, especially if you're a fan of the comic books. And if you're not, are you feeling the same way I'm feeling, or is it just me? Am I like really off here? Or maybe it's just not gelling with me for some bizarre reason. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But like I said, it's intriguing enough that I will continue watching it, and I'll see where this goes. And who knows, maybe 2 more episodes in, I might give up. Maybe the next podcast in a week or 2, you'll hear me saying, I had enough. Invincible can go suck a dag. When I say dag, I mean bag of dicks, of course. Which John Cena will be happy enough to do so if it was for liberty and justice. So, guys, that's about it for the episode of the podcast today. Thank you again for listening and watching. As always, hit that like, subscribe, comment. Ask any questions you may have from anything that I've covered in this episode today. Was there something that you wanted to add on to anything that I mentioned? Again, love to hear your thoughts, love to interact with the community there. And let's do what we can to get this channel rolling and get up to 500 subscribers there. And I am looking forward to enjoying the ride with all of you. And hopefully you are looking forward to enjoying the ride with me. So hit the theme, guys. Again, can't thank you enough for listening and for joining, and I'm looking forward to the next episode there. So until next time, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe, be kind to one another, and I will catch all of you guys in the next one. All right, y'all, peace.